Okay. Okay, give me one sec. It's starting to record. I just want to make sure it's recording before we start.
Okay.
Where are you? That's a sweet map.
Me? I'm in my
Tama, what'd you just say?
I'm in my dad's office.
Oh, that's kind of. Is your dad like a scientist?
He really likes wilderness stuff, so he like does a lot in the wild and hunting and camping stuff. So he's really into it.
Gotcha. Guys, can you guys all hear? I know. Okay. I'm gonna turn the lights off so I can see you, and then I'm just gonna move, and then you're good to go.
Okay.
And also, by the way, why'd you have to wear that sweatshirt today?
I literally didn't even think about it. It's like the only
you did.
thing I have right now.
She went to like the opposing college of my college, and like their mascot's a Jimmy. A Jimmy.
Jimmy Neutron?
No, like a Jimmy. It's literally like a guy on a horse. Like the dumbest name for a college.
Better than ponies.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Still are ponies. We're the Vikings.
Or the Spuds.
That has to be the worst. No, the Concordia Mart has to be the worst one. The Cobbers. Okay, one sec, Jessica. Let me get this last piece first.
Okay.
I hope you like that image down there. I just want to put this there in case somebody has a question. Can you like see the class? I can't see crap.
I mean, kind of. Like I can see figures.
Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, it's all you. All you.
Okay. Well, hi guys. I am Jessica. I did work at STMA a couple years ago, but I currently just finished a job as a zookeeper. I went to the University of Jamestown, as he said, and I studied biology there. And that's kind of where I got my start with stuff that I ended up finding out I liked. I didn't actually know what I wanted to do when I went to college. And the reason I went to college was for sports. So, like, not the best decision, but I did it. And I was surprised at all the things I didn't know going into college. So, a lot of the things about, like what my opportunities were, what I could do, the things that I could get into, and kind of how I could get my start in a lot of things. So, I actually started off going into a little bit more of research stuff. So I was into some of the research programs that we had at my school. I helped out in a couple of different research areas that were like opportunities that I had in the area that I was living at. And that was kind of my first thing that I knew I liked, just because I knew I liked the environment and animals and things that were going on. And I liked learning about that stuff. After that, I kind of got into a little bit more of zoo stuff. So I ended up interning at a zoo because I, again, knew I liked animals. And I kind of knew I didn't want to do vet stuff, but there was always that possibility that maybe I like vet stuff. But like I said, I went into college not totally knowing what I wanted to do. And I ended up really liking zoo stuff. So I kind of ended up pursuing that. So I know that Mr. Olson talked to me about, like letting you guys know what opportunities you have and things that you guys could get into. And I think that my biggest advice, which I definitely did not have when I was in high school, was kind of exploring options of just getting a little piece of everything that you think you might like. So, volunteering at places, getting involved in places and doing things in other places that you just didn't really think that you might want to do, or think maybe this is interesting and cool and I just am interested in this. So there's that. But now I'll talk a little bit about my career stuff. So, as I said, I had been a zookeeper. So I interned and then I ended up getting a job there. And that was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. It was one of the things where I really enjoyed my job and I enjoyed the job field, but it is incredibly hard to get into. And I just quit my job recently, so I am now back home, but I'm trying to get back into it and trying to get back into more of a field of it that I want to be in, because I was with a large variety of animals and nothing specific that I necessarily wanted to work with. So I'm kind of trying to get back into the realm of that. And it is extremely difficult. I technically have enough experience to apply for things, but also I don't have enough experience to apply for things at the same time. So it's one of those things where I have a lot of friends that got involved when they were in high school. You know, they were interning at places, volunteering at places, and doing all those things throughout high school into college, and then out of college, you know, they have twice the amount of experience I have, even though I do have experience. And so getting involved early with a lot of things is really helpful. And even in terms of just, you know, any other job, I have worked at, I was a dog trainer for a year. And even with just a year's experience as a dog trainer, it's pretty hard to get jobs working with dogs. You know, like they want a lot of experience with that stuff too. So, you know, knowing reception stuff or knowing stuff that goes into vet clinic stuff or vet care, vet technician stuff, vet assistant stuff. That stuff is always really helpful, and I don't have a lot of that either. And so, you know, I can get experience doing that, but it's a little bit more difficult if you don't have a lot of background in it. So I wasn't super involved when I was in high school because, again, like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But even if you guys are able to kind of get involved with something and volunteer and kind of be a part of those things, it can be helpful figuring out your path and getting you a leg up on other people. So, is there any? I think that's most of the stuff. Okay. I will also mention the things I liked about my job and the things I didn't like about my job. As a dog trainer, I really liked working with the animals, but I did not like working with people, I realized. And then as a zookeeper, I really liked my daily, everyday normalcy. Everything from day to day was pretty the same. You had a lot of the same things you had to do. But there's always something different that happened, which was kind of, it kept the day exciting and interesting. But then there was also the work environment as a zookeeper is a lot different than things that you would expect. Because it's such a competitive field, a lot of times you're overworked and underpaid. And so there was just kind of those complications that kind of came with being a zookeeper. So there is that. If you guys have any questions, I would be more than willing to answer them. I see a hand up.
Dylan, can you hear them?
Not totally.
When working at the zoo, was there any specific species of insect you were fond of? It was probably not as big as the zoo, but is there anything that would have been, you know, interesting to a person like me?
We had actually a pretty good collection of insects and stuff. I actually didn't get to work with a lot of them, but I did get to help out every now and then. And we had 4 different species of tarantulas. And I am somebody who is actually terrified of spiders. And I actually kind of got to overcome my fear and actually hold one of them, which was pretty cool. But yeah, we had like a Costa Rican tarantula, the normal rose-haired tarantula. And then we had 2 others which were off exhibit, which I actually never really worked with. But there was quite a few different insects. And then, you know, we had the normal hissing cockroaches, and then a ton of like snakes and that kind of stuff.
One last question. This is the Minnesota Zoo you were talking about, right?
What'd you say?
Minnesota Zoo?
It was actually the Red River Zoo in Fargo, so it was not the Minnesota Zoo.
All right. Because I was going to ask one last question, but I guess answering that, that's all the questions I have for now.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Perfect. Don't you have one? Oh, does anybody have any other questions? Addie, Mariel, Aaron, you guys have questions? I don't even know if they heard me or if they're even paying attention.
No, I don't have any questions.
What's your favorite animal to work with?
Did you hear him?
No.
What's your favorite animal to work with?
Oh, that is a tricky question. Well, okay, so I was the primary trainer for house cats, and so I actually am not a cat person at all, but I ended up really loving them because they are they're kind of psycho. But I would have to say that the red pandas were always very interesting. They kept life very interesting. They are really sneaky, so they like to try to get out of things and get into things. And they always wanted to be in your business and always wanted to be in your face and wanted to see what you're doing. And they were really, really cool animals to work with. And they're a very interesting species altogether since they're kind of their own thing. So that was probably one of my favorites.
There's another one.
Okay, sounds good.
What was the most like unsettling like species or like creatures to work with while being a zookeeper?
So it kind of depended on the behavior of the animals, and so I wouldn't necessarily say that we had one species that I was terrified of, or was unsettling, but we had a few animals in specific that were kind of terrifying. So our male camel, when he was in his rut season, he would kill somebody. He absolutely would try to kill somebody. He would like chase you out of the arena area that his holding was in, like along the fence, would like chase you out. He would try to bite you if you got too close. He would try to bite your feet if you got too close. And he was also one that really liked affection when he wasn't in rut. So you had to be really, really careful of like, what season it was and how he was acting and those types of things. But we also had a female takin who she was also very aggressive, especially after she had just had a baby, which, protective mom makes sense. But she would headbutt fences and stuff if you were nearby. And, if they got out, like there wasn't anything you could do, it would have been pretty terrifying because she could have taken someone out very easily. And then we also had wolves, in general, depending on the facility that you're at or the way that the facility takes care of their wolves. Sometimes they're hand raised, and so we had 2 hand raised ones, and then we had 4 non-hand raised ones. And the hand raised ones, they have the personality of really liking to be around people and want the attention from people and affection from people and that kind of thing. Whereas the other 4 that weren't hand raised were very skittish and afraid of people. So if there's a situation in which somehow you were in contact with those 4, it could be a pretty dangerous situation depending on how they react. So there was never a situation in which with any of these animals that actually came to like me being scared or afraid. But it was definitely something to get used to, of like knowing the animals themselves and knowing how they react or behave.
Jessica, what's a takin?
A takin is my favorite way to describe it is a very large Mongolian sheep. They are very huge, so they weigh anywhere from like 300-400 pounds to 700 or 800 pounds, and then they have like big horns, and they are very muscular with like really awkward legs because they climb up in mountains and stuff. But they are a relative of the sheep, so they're basically a large sheep.
Yeah. Huh. I had no idea what that thing was.
They're really, really interesting animals. I actually also was a secondary trainer on them. And because they are like a sheep species, they are actually super afraid of everything. And so they didn't like new things, and they didn't like to be in new areas or new environments. But they were very, very smart in terms of like remembering training things. And when they were really young, I was the primary trainer for our baby takin. She was super intrigued and super interested in training, and she actually started training, I think it was 2 weeks after she was born. So she started doing coming up to the gate to take food and targeting on things and those types of things. It was very, very cool.
Gotcha. When you mean by like training, do you mean like just how they're gonna get food and like where they're gonna go, pretty much? Because like you're not gonna teach a thing to sit. Like
Actually,
fetch, right? Like is that
we do teach things to sit. So animal,
is that a bad question?
what?
Like I didn't know if that was like a stupid question, but like
No, it wasn't at all. one of my keeper talks that I would do would be training the Pals cats for the public to see actually what training was and what it consisted of. Because a lot of people don't realize what training things you do. So it depended on what animals we were training. So like I said, I was the primary for the Pals cat. So we would do things, it was called a line up behavior. So they would bring their whole side of their body and put it along the fence so that you could see hips, see like arms, do body condition scores, making sure that they're healthy. One of them, he would do a stand up behavior. So he would actually stand up and show his full belly and then put his paws up. So I could touch his paws, look at his nails, and then see his belly. And then in a lay down behavior, he would also do that. So I could look at his eyes, look at his teeth. He had a crate behavior, and there were other small things like targeting. So bringing him to a spot or a follow behavior. And a lot of this stuff is medical reasons, but also it's enriching. So it's kind of helpful for them to be thinking about things or exhibiting behaviors that they might have to exhibit in the wild. But because they're not in the wild, we're giving them an opportunity to use their brain in a different way so that they are not getting bored or doing destructive behaviors for themselves or to the environment just because they have nothing else to do. And then depending on, the species, so that's more of a cat or a canine type of behavior stuff that you would do. So we did line up behaviors and that kind of stuff with a lot of our animals and a lot of our canines and felines. But with our hoof stock, it was a lot more just lineups and then getting them to be able to let us touch them so we could do blood draws so that we could look at hooves. And then some of our animals, we were able to do voluntary hoof trimmings. And so it was one of those things where we would have to try to get them used to us grabbing them or grabbing their foot or those types of things, since they are a little bit easier to work with through a fence than some of the more dangerous animals. We also had 2 monkeys, and they would do a lot of behaviors for separating them so that we could do different things with both of them. Theirs was a little bit more trying to get them to not do destructive behaviors to people because they liked to throw rocks at people and they liked to hit people and do not very nice things. And so theirs is a little bit more tailored to those 2 monkeys specifically, whereas a lot of primate species, a lot of the training they do is also for medical procedures and making sure that those things go more smoothly. But overall training, it kind of depends on who the trainer is and what exactly the animal in the facility needs at the time for that animal. Because there are also a lot of animals that are in facilities or zoos that have medical problems that need to be addressed or have other issues that, they wouldn't know about if they weren't in contact with people. And so kind of making more run smoothly for them so that they don't get stressed out and so that they there isn't a heightened thing in their environment that's making them kind of go crazy or freak out or feel terrified or fearful of their environment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Darren, do you have another question?
Yeah, I do have another question. In terms of primates, what is the largest species that you have at the zoo?
For primates, our largest primate was technically our 2-toed sloth, but we only had 3 primates. So we had our 2-toed sloth, and then we had 2 saki monkeys.
I don't mean to correct people, but sloths aren't primates, I don't think.
They technically
they're their own thing, like related to anteaters and armadillos.
Oh, we did have an armadillo.
Right.
We had a 6-banded armadillo. But our sloth actually in the zoo is considered a primate, even though they aren't necessarily a technical primate.
Right.
But because of the way that our facility was run, we considered that part of our primate exhibit. So technically primate, but our saki monkeys were our true New World primates. And then we had the sloth, which was part of our primate exhibit with our armadillo.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Any questions for anybody online?
I do not have any questions, no.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad I can tune into this. I wish I was there.
If no one has any other questions, Jessica, you're totally fine. I'll see you next hour.
Okay.
And just use the same exact link.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesus.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.